and welcome back to First Geek 411's book club. Tonight we will be discussing Vicious by V.E. Schwab.
I 100% thought I held my book up backwards, but that was just because I was seeing the back of it.
I would hold mine up, but I have a cat in my arms.
All right, before we get started, you can find us at all the places. First Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come chat with us on our Discord server or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on our Twitch every Monday night at 6:45 Mountain Time and find all our videos over on YouTube. Rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our sweet, sweet merch at our Redbubble store. I'm Shaneen, and with me, I have Emma
Hi.
and Cameron.
Hello, hello. How y'all doing?
So excited to talk about my number one book of 2022.
So many thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I will be devastated if you all did not love it.
I did prep. I do have a hot take. So I've prepped Shaneen for this beforehand.
I'm okay with hot takes as long as like overall because I loved this book so much. I discovered V.E. Schwab for the first time through this book and was like, where has she been my whole life? But anyways, Vicious. We have two college roommates, Victor and Elliot, who are interested in extraordinaries, or EOs, people with super abilities, and they begin to research the theoretical possibility of their existence. But theory turns to reality when they start to experiment with near-death experiences and develop abilities of their own. But the best friends quickly turn to arch enemies. Eli begins to hunt down EOs in an attempt to eliminate these unnatural beings, and Victor needs to hunt down Eli before he kills more people, and probably a little bit for revenge.
Probably a little bit for revenge.
That's a touch.
As in like 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not
Who
saying
will
Victor
kill-
doesn't care about other people, but
Both have questionable motives, but Eli is more questionable than Victor. We'll just put it that way.
Which in and of itself is questionable.
Yes.
All right. And who will kill the other first? Dun dun dun. All right. First impressions. I kind of gave mine already, so.
Surprise, Shaneen loves it. This was a very enjoyable read. I read it in huge chunks and slash sittings, and it's such a different. I mean, there's no hero in the traditional sense of the phrase slash term hero. They're both kind of the bad guys, but you want one of the bad guys to win over the other, and that's what makes it such a fun read. I enjoyed it. That's what that comes back to. It was a very entertaining read while stuck at home with COVID. I'll say that much.
So Shaneen, I hope you're ready for this. I'm just kidding. I loved it. I had posted in our Discord that I actually finished this I just checked on the 14th of January, which is probably the quickest that I have knocked out a book. Because like Emma, I just sat down and knocked out 150 pages one night, and was just like, oh, I'll read one more chapter, and I just did that. And knocked out
Some of those
half the
chapters
book.
are really short.
Yeah. And so it's very uncommon for me to get that way with books. I get that often with video games, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've had that one more. I very much anticipated that I was going to need to do more of the measuring out my time, especially as we got towards the end of the month, and then nope, just got through it all. Yeah, so I really liked this as well. It's a very fun take on heroes or people with powers. To what Emma said, not really heroes. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was a fantastic pick to kick off the year.
All right. So, as I think we've all kind of alluded to, this is very different from other superhero media in that there's not really any superheroes. Um, what did you think of the world Schwab created?
It very much puts like gaining superpowers, if you will, in a much more like realistic world in the sense of like you literally have to die in order to gain this thing. Die and come back to life. And like when you do, you're not entirely yourself after the fact anyway. So like I feel like it's the most realistic take on gaining superpowers. Like if it were possible in real life, I could see it going some route like this where it's like the route in which you have to gain those powers is super intense and not great for your mental health.
Yeah.
um but it makes sense. It's like, yeah, like okay, that I can see that logistically happening a lot more easily than getting bit by a radioactive spider.
Yeah. And we should say, just because I don't think we've said it on this, so the way that you die is when you die, your body is like releases basically the adrenaline of like trying to keep you alive. And so if you can get that peaked, like the second before you die, and then you die and are brought back, that adrenaline, it like unlocks the powers, right? That's how it works.
And the powers are kind of based on what your dying thoughts
Yeah.
were. So like Eli has the power to heal himself, and his dying thoughts had to do with like I don't remember, but like I want to get through this, like I want to survive and not feel pain or something. Except that's Victor, but your dying thoughts sort of correlate with what power you get.
Which I really liked. I thought that that was a very fun take on it. Kind of the idea that if you knew the formula, you could try to create a scenario where you get a specific power. Obviously, that would be very challenging to do, but that is something that is like technically possible. And so I thought that that was a very interesting take, especially as throughout the novel and kind of, I would assume through the sequel, that we get more and more prevalence of EOs or more and more known of EOs in the world. I'm definitely curious to like what that means from a world building perspective, but who knows?
Yeah. Any other thoughts on how this compares to other super media?
I love that it's just dumb guy. Well, they're very smart, but dumb guys in their college dorm that crack the code to how to get superpowers.
They're smart guys who just so happen to be college guys.
Right.
So they're smart, but they're only book smart.
Right. They're smart, but they're the dumbest people ever. And so, but yeah, I thought that was very funny. It's just like such a college kid thing to be like, well, what if to get powers we had to die and come back to life? Like it's just like
Let's do
Schwab
it.
like wrote them so well at that point, and I loved that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you guys said. Like, I think it was such an interesting take on superpower origins and like I don't think one that I've ever seen anywhere else. Like we get a lot of like radioactive things and like mutations and stuff like that, but no like a death experience and stuff. It's very different and interesting.
I think the cool thing about it is that it's the same route for everyone with a different result. Whereas typically it's different route and different result. Here it's same route, different result. Everyone gets their powers in the same general way by dying and then coming back to life, but the outcomes are different.
Yeah, true. I guess another thing I'll say in terms of world building is also how superpowers like fit into society. So I feel like in a lot of superhero media, there's like the superheroes and the supervillains. But in this, like EOs, like the majority of people don't even believe they exist.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like really interesting
Yeah.
And
from that angle as well.
there's like a specific police task force that is dispatched to deal with EOs sort of
And not
under
even
the
all of
radar.
them believe that
And
EOs
not
are
even all
real.
of them believe it.
Yeah. All right. What was your favorite part of Vicious?
I I don't think that this is a future question. Oh no, it is. I really liked the ending, so I'll save that for now. I really liked the solution that Victor comes up with, and so I thought that was very clever. Um, Other than that, um, I really liked the times that um, we get to see Victor and like Squad up to no good. Like, um, even as we talked about at the very beginning, there's no heroes in this story. Like, there's not even really anti-heroes. Like, these are just all villains that are all in it for their own bad reasons. Except for Sydney, but like, she's a saint. But like,
Yes.
everyone else is like a bad person who's in this for bad reasons. Um, and I really liked that this isn't the we're trying to paint these characters in a good light. It is that grittier take in that sense on like
They are
Victor needs
bad.
this
We're
information.
not going to justify
Yeah,
their
exactly.
behavior. They are bad.
Exactly. And so,
Period.
so, like, one of the ones that I thought was really interesting is when we have Serena's power to basically control people with as she speaks. And then
Silent
Victor
power.
kills the detective and has Sydney bring him back to life to see if the power holds. And then just to kill him again. So like very brutal, very dark, but it sets up Victor so well as a character of him like he's been in prison for 10 years. Like he's been planning this and now he needs to figure out not just how Eli's power is going, but how this other power and he's like it's so pragmatic and it's so supervillain. Like I loved that scene for that reason.
The dog.
Yes.
The dog got a third chance at life,
Yeah.
okay?
The dog's the MVP.
The dog is the MVP for just simply existing. Um, but I was trying to find it. In this one, all of my favorite parts were like quotes or things people were thinking, and I'm like, wow, that's actually super interesting. That thought process. But um, the whole dynamic between Eli and Serena of like Eli's Eli's very clearly quite good at manipulating people, even though that's not his power. Just like he's very charismatic. and very like wanting to get people on his side. And then you have Serena, whose power is literally to get people to do what she says. So you've got one of the super interesting things to see play out throughout the book for me was that sort of push and pull between the two of them, of like her trying to, you know, have him do what she wants and him trying to pull away from it, even though like he's very much the worst of the two main bad guys. Like he still has this conflict of his own to deal with on the side. That's a big struggle for him, and that was cool to sort of watch play out.
For me, my favorite part is like everything. It is so hard to narrow it down. I mean, initially, I just fell in love with the writing style. Like, it's so good. Like, it's so rare that I can come at it from like an author's perspective and be like analyzing it and be like, wow, this craft is so amazing, and not have it ruin the story and take me out of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just, it's so good. Um,
I'm editing notes, so that's what's happening.
Solid addition there, Cameron. I
Yeah.
have to say, like,
We'll get there. We'll
Okay.
get there.
it's very much a required question in this case.
And like, I love the character development. Like, as we said, they're all very super 100% villains, but like, you can see why they are that way. Like, you don't have to agree with them, but you're like, yeah, this is what you believe, and it makes sense that you would be doing this thing right now.
Yeah, even like Mitch, who like all in all is like very kind-hearted, but like he very much has that like, oh, why is he a villain? Well, he always got assumed to be the person causing trouble, and like at some point he
up guy with tattoos.
Yeah.
Is just assumed to be the bad guy, which granted in a lot of cases he is when he's sitting there at a computer hacking into things. He's just always assumed to be the bad guy for different reasons.
Yeah, like I thought, like 100% Shane, to your point, that's one of the things that I loved. Like even him, like he's very much has that big teddy bear vibe, but he's like, you know what? You're gonna make me the villain. I guess I'm hacking stuff. Like here we go. I guess like I'm embracing this lifestyle now.
Also, towards the end, when he gets shot by Eli, and he doesn't die, is that just because he was wearing like a bulletproof vest? I couldn't figure that out. Like it didn't seem clear. Maybe I read that part in the midst of the fever, but I'm not sure why he didn't die from getting shot.
He was wearing a vest, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was their like it was their like way of Eli just like didn't shoot him in the head, like shot him in the chest, and then like he had a vest on it, so he survived.
Cool. I was just like, I'm so confused. Why is he not dead? Sydney's not there.
And also, I think just any scene between Victor and Sydney, I was like, Victor, I know you have a soft spot for her, and you hate it, and you don't want to, but you do. And it's cute, and I love it.
Very much a Joel and
I was about
Ellie
to say,
vibe.
without going into spoilers for The Last of Us, it's very Joel and Ellie. Like
That's definitely the vibe I got. Please, I just want to keep the dog. No, please. Okay, fine.
All right. Any least favorite parts?
I don't think so.
there are sections that like I could have definitely gone without.
But they weren't terrible.
They weren't bad. Like they were written well. But there's stuff that like we'll talk about this once we get into powers, but like there's definitely some stuff with that. Um, but yeah, there's not really any specific sections that I felt like really dragged or anything. There were, yeah, there's also sections I would have liked more of, but like, you know, that's a good thing. So
Right answer.
um,
We have touched on this a bit already, but do you have anything to add in any thoughts on Victor and Eli as characters, as villains slash not heroes?
I really liked the idea of how someone's personality and powers colors their worldview. So like,
Yeah.
there's the quote where like, I actually pulled it up because I wanted to have it here. And then I think I scrolled to find another one, and now I lost it. But it's basically talking about how the fact that because Eli's power is like a reflex and it can't be used to hurt people.
Oh,
Um,
that was
there we
a
go.
conversation with Serena.
Yeah. So it's Victor says self righteousness. Victor said, but when Sydney looked confused, he added, "He heals. It's a reflexive ability in his eyes. I think that makes it how pure, divine. He can't technically use his power to hurt others." "No," said Sydney. "He uses guns for that." Victor chuckled. But we see someone in Eli that already has this like chosen one mentality going into it.
Almost like a god complex.
Yeah, like he already had a god complex. That was already part of his personality. Then once he got this power, it then further colored like that belief.
Boosted that whole, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that was a super cool way versus Victor, who, and oh man, it's almost like things were planned out, who like is kind of dealing with the pain of not feeling like he gets what he feels like he deserves, and is already dealing with that pain, and then through his power, like gains that, and then that then colors his view on people of like, oh well, yeah, I can't manipulate people with my power, but man, I can crank up that switch or crank it down, like stuff like that. It very much colors like, and I thought that like it colors how they both view the world around them and how they view other people. And I thought that was so well done. And again, just how that carries through from their pre-powers, their actual power, and then how their worldview shifts. So well done, V.E. Schwab.
Very well done. As I've said before, both very much bad guys. If I had to work for one over the other, I'd much rather work for Victor. Um, because Eli is the kind of person, going to what you were saying, Cameron, that I just cannot stand. In terms of like very being very full of himself to a detrimental sense. Whereas like Victor, yeah, he's full of himself to an extent, but at the same time, he kind of recognizes that in himself and is willing to acknowledge it. But both very much just questionable characters. I wouldn't want to work for either of them. But if I had to pick one, I would rather work for Victor. Because he at least has his head on slightly more straight.
Ish.
Ish. To an extent. Both very well written, and I thought the fact that their like clashing rivalry existed long before their powers did was such a good like way to express that they aren't just fighting against each other because they're both have powers and are gaining on each other's turf. No, like they were college roommates, and Eli always swept in and took things that Victor felt were rightfully his, and that's not cool. So I thought that whole like already having that pre-existing relationship between the two of them made the dynamic of both being sort of bad guys feel so much more dynamic.
I agree.
I also agree. Just to expand a bit on what both of you have said about like Eli's god complex and Victor being like slightly more level-headed. Um like yeah, cuz Eli views himself as a hero and like demands that people call him one, and Victor's like, "Well, I guess that makes me the villain then." And just like he knows he's not the hero, even though I think in his eyes Eli's definitely a villain.
Mm-hmm.
But he knows that them being against each other does not make one of them a hero and one of them a villain.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely also working for Victor. Have a bit of an unhealthy crush on him, a bit of the Loki thing going on there.
Yeah.
It's fine. All right. Favorite side character?
Sydney and the dog. Because Sydney does not deserve all of the nonsense given to her.
Yeah. Sydney's just trying to spend time with her sister.
Yeah.
Like,
having an older sister, I totally get that. Like, I didn't, I wasn't a Sydney in the sense that I tried to be more like my sister, but like, I understand the whole like looking up to an older sibling and like wanting them to see you and recognize you and all of that, and like just making that a part of who you are. And like, the whole time I was just like, no, girl, go figure out who you are, not who she is. Like,
mm-hmm.
you are not her. Please go figure yourself out. You don't belong here. And then the dog, who just, I think they named him Dole. Which, first of all, fabulous name for a dog. Second of all, he's just like, oh, you brought me back to life. Okay, I'm gonna sit under your chair now. Has absolutely no plot development point to him, but
just
you
hanging
know,
out.
he's just there, and that's great, and it's like fabulous. He's the emotional support dog for poor little Sydney.
Yep.
And I am okay with that.
Yeah. Sydney was definitely the one that I liked the most reading through the story, but I feel like as like I've had time away from it, like it's Mitch. Like I love Mitch so much.
Yeah.
Like he's such like a cool like take on the guy in the chair motif. Like he is like this big intimidating guy, but is also way smarter than he gets credit for. And I loved that about him. And I liked that while this is very much a Eli Victor story, like Mitch has like very important stuff to do throughout this, especially as the really the only main character or the only only person that's on Team Victor that doesn't have powers. I thought that they like really let him like do a lot of cool stuff in terms of how he affects the story.
I just thought of that one line from Megamind where it's just like, and I love you, random citizen. Like, Mitch is just a random guy.
He's just here. Like
he's just there.
And honestly, like even how he meets Victor.
I love you, random citizen.
Like, Victor is, yeah, Mitch and Victor are just like hanging out. Like
Yeah.
Mitch is vibing.
You just see them just like, all right, I'll take that. Sure.
Yeah,
So.
I'm also 100% Team Mitch. He is wonderful and so misunderstood, and everyone just needs to leave him alone. He's like the only one trying to keep Victor and Sydney and Dole alive. Victor doesn't care. Mm-hmm. Mitch is just like, can you not die for like 5 minutes?
He's like kind of has the mom vibe. He's like, I left you alone for 5 minutes. How is everything broken right now? Like,
yes.
the pizza box meme from
Yes, the
when
walking in,
like
everything's on fire. Yes, that's very much Mitch.
Yeah. Oh, poor Mitch.
he's just
Yes,
the one holding everything together.
he is.
He is this. He is the glue in this supervillain team.
Yep.
All right. Favorite super ability and apparently also least favorite. I'm I'm ready.
Okay. So, favorite. I liked Victor's power. Um, like it's very like on the nose, um, but it's very like unique in that. Like it's a very cool way of basically being able to turn up or down someone's pain. Like I very much liked that. I liked that also for Victor we get a limitation. Like he does need to see the person. Um, and I thought that that was a very cool thing. Of course, like he even brings it up, like he bluffs that he can do this from anywhere, but like it doesn't actually work that way. And so I like that he has, at least at this point in the story, like a built-in limit. It's not just this like super powerful thing. Uh, and even with the power, he says that like it's more powerful if they're already in pain. And so I think that like is an interesting like set of rules for it. Um, okay, least favorite. So Dominic, who we have not talked about, but I have thoughts. So Dominic is met, no joke, in like the last 5 chapters of the book.
You know what we call this, Cameron?
It's Deus Ex Machina. Like it's so bad,
Yes.
and so the whole cause of this,
That or a MacGuffin.
yeah, like the whole cause of this is Serena's power. Like we said, is that she can say whatever she says, you have to follow. It's hers. It's not a conscious power, which I thought was interesting as well. It's very Purple Man, where like
Very
she just
much.
like so that's very interesting. Not a huge fan on that power overall because of reasons, but like here we are. But the whole like challenge then becomes how do you as a team beat someone whose power can just be like shoot yourself and you have to do it. And so introduce Dominic that we've talked about in these notes for the whole thing, whose power conveniently blocks out sound so that you can beat the person before they can talk. It was just so like on the nose. And like I feel like was such a boring answer to that question. To have that. Now it's a cool power in itself. But just like in the context of what was needed for this book, like that's really my only
which it was introduced.
yeah, like that's just like my only complaint. It's so coincidental that the one EO that they happen to be able to save is the one that happens to have the power that can beat Serena.
I want to know what the power was for the other guy that Eli and Sydney get to first. Who like hears all the voices in his head.
Mm.
Like I wonder if it was like duplication or whatever. But because there's Dominic and then this other guy that they get to, and Eli and Sydney get to the other guy first,
Serena.
and then
Eli and Serena.
Serena. And I just want to know.
Yeah.
That was my curious question mark.
Yeah, I agree. Also, shout out to girl that was basically Magneto. You were taken away from us before you had your time to shine.
Seriously. I am with you there, Cameron, on favorite for Victor's. Pretty much everything you said. Also, just because, like, the ability to control someone else's pain is just a unique power in general. Like, we've seen healing before, we've seen essentially mind control before, we've seen, Magneto before. Resurrection in some cases. But, like, the ability to control someone else's pain through all these different stipulations or whatever, like, that's something that hasn't really been done before, and it was a very unique, like, okay, that's something new and different, and that was super cool just to like see that applied in a story. Least favorite, um, honestly, I think Dominic's just showed up way too late in the story for his ability to skip around in time or whatever to really be like, okay, now you're just getting a little bit lazy, but like I think that one just because it's also been seen. It's basically a reskinned Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel a little bit, just to be contrary, I'm gonna say I really liked Dominic's power. Um, I don't know. It did feel a little Deus Ex Machina, but not enough that I was like upset about it. Because like we knew the whole time that we were searching for an EO. So like we found one. Obviously it is going to be one where
Mm-hmm.
their power is conveniently going to help us in some way. That's just how stories go. Um and I don't know, I found it kind of interesting. Like we have teleportation abilities and stuff, but the way that his works is just different. It's more of a stepping outside of time than like a direct teleportation,
It
which
had
is
like Neverwhere
interesting.
vibes. It's like stepping to the world like through the cracks. It that made me very much think of Neverwhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And he can like move through shadows. So like there are limitations on like where he can go, how far he can go. And I believe, if I'm recalling right, he can't breathe when he's doing that either. So there's like a time limit on how long he can be moving outside of time.
I don't remember for sure on the breathing thing. I know they can't talk. Like they can't like communicate or anything, but I don't remember the breathing specifically.
I read a
And
good chunk of that in the midst of a fever, so who knows what I did and did not make
Emma
up in
might
my
even have read the wrong book. We don't know.
I
you know.
don't know. I might be making that up. I might be remembering things from Vengeful. Um, but I don't know if it makes you feel any better about Dominic showing up late. He does also play a part in the second book, so like he does stick around. He's not just like shoved in for the end and then like
Sent
hucked
off
off.
again.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I also agree with what everyone said about Victor's power, though. I don't know if I necessarily had a least favorite. Like maybe Eli's, just for the sake of being like the least interesting.
It's just very by the books.
Yeah.
Like it's just like such a stereotypical healing power.
Okay, great. You can heal
Yep.
yourself. Fantastic. Let's move on. Next. What can you do? Oh, I can resurrect people from the dead.
Uh, all right. Something else that we have not mentioned thus far is the way that the story was told, in that it is not chronological throughout the book. We get a lot of time jumping back and forth. What did you all think of that?
So I loved this as well. I thought that this was a super cool way, especially it's like more so for like the first half, right? is very much jumping around. Then it's a bit more like chronological after that in Act Two. But I loved this as a way to introduce the world in chunks, because like we have Victor and Sydney at the cemetery, where of course they know that they're EOs and they know that they have powers. But then at the same time, we have Victor and Eli in college where they don't have powers yet. They're trying to figure it out. And it makes these very cool like dynamics for like the mystery of what's going on. So I don't really remember where this quote was, but I loved it as it tied into this because I think it's pretty early on when they're in the graveyard. And it said, truth be told, Victor didn't care for graveyards either. He didn't like dead people, mostly because he had no effect on them. Sydney, conversely, didn't like dead people because she had such a marked effect on them. And that is just like, what is her power? Like what is going like what is going on here? Because we don't have any context for that quote yet, if I'm remembering roughly where it occurred. And I think that that was such a fun way of like easing us into the different characters. I was just looking and trying to find it. If y'all can get there quickly, I would love to know where it was because I feel like it's in one of the first like 2 or 3 graveyard sections, but I just could not find it as I was trying to find it earlier. I had to go to Goodreads to get that quote. But
Oh yeah, it's in the first one.
Okay, it is in the first one. Okay.
Yeah, it's like exactly halfway through, like the first chapter.
Yeah. So like that's just like such an awesome way of like setting up your world of like and using the time jumps well. Like it teases so much what is going on here. Um and yeah, super excited. Like it was such a good way to bring us in.
And give background at the same time. Like going back to sort of what I was saying earlier about like their feud that's happened for a long time. Like it sort of sheds light on that while also like setting up the story without feeling bland. Like they were good parallels to each other.
Yeah.
Um One of the things that stood out to me with the whole like back and forth, like sort of jumping timeline, um, that's kind of like that, showing the development of Eli and Victor's personalities pre and post, like near death experience, dying, getting their powers, whatever. At some point, I think this is act towards the start of Act Two, but Eli's like, um, could that be the difference? He'd seen a demon wearing his best friend's skin, but Eli didn't feel like there was any evil in himself. If anything, he felt hands strong, steady, and guiding him when he pulled the trigger. Um, when he snapped Lynn's neck, when he didn't run from stealth. Those moments of peace, of serenity, they felt like faith. And it's this, like that, like mirroring back and forth from past to present still happens even in the present in some ways of like recalling memory. And I thought that was pretty cool. And just like getting to see that, how like diving into Eli's head for the first time in the second half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Loved the way this story was told, jumping back and forth. All of the chapters are titled like last night or like 2 days ago or like 10 years ago. And it
1 hour
like,
till midnight.
Yeah.
and it like highlights like building up to the night. And you're like, what happens on this night?
What
Like,
happens in 6 hours?
Yeah,
I
loved
need
it.
to know.
and yeah, like you know that it's coming, but you don't know what it is. And it's just like, huh. And yeah, I don't know. I love like it's not told time wise chronologically, but it's still like thematically chronological, I guess. And Yeah, like what Emma was saying with like the mirroring the past and the present. And something else that I just totally loved was from a storytelling perspective, your protagonist is supposed to like start in one spot and come full circle and kind of end where they began, but different. And I just love that we start in a graveyard and end in a
Mm-hmm.
graveyard, and like what that says about Victor, that we like get introduced to him in a graveyard, and just like what death and life mean to him. And oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so good the way that they did that full circle, even though it's out of chronology. Like, just so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here is a quote. But these words people threw around, humans, monsters, heroes, villains, to Victor, it was all just a matter of semantics. Someone could call themselves a hero and still walk around killing dozens. Someone else could be labeled a villain for trying to stop them. Plenty of humans were monstrous, and plenty of monsters knew how to play at being human.
This was one of the quotes I was
Thoughts?
going to bring before I saw it in the notes.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the main theme of
Mm-hmm.
Vicious, so.
Yeah. Yep.
Literally, my other marked page
Yes. Yeah.
is that quote.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting to see the idea of like how does the world view you and how does the world define if you're a hero or villain versus how do you see it in yourself. Like that's obviously the main difference between Eli and Victor. Like Eli sees himself as a hero, even though he is the one, like he's the serial killer, whereas Victor understands that he's the villain. Um, Even though he's the one, in a sense, that's trying to save the world from Eli. Uh, and like when I got that quote, it really reminded me of when I was playing through the Marvel Spider-Man video game, and like all of the like destruction of like you're pulling car doors off things and flinging them at bad guys, sending manhole covers flying, and it's like you know what is Spider-Man a menace?
Yeah. like,
Like like someone has to put
I
all of
just
those manhole covers back, so cars and
put
people
him
don't
the fuck
fall in
off
them.
once he
Like
pisses off. Yeah.
and it's such an interesting thing of like there's so much of that theme of hero or villain is just a matter of perspective. And like obviously for most superheroes we get that like oh they're a hero because at least they don't kill people or don't kill innocent people, but it's like
They
well
had good
yeah,
intentions, or you
yeah,
know, this or that.
yeah. And I like that it played with that, and I like what you just said. Like for so many heroes we think of it as intentions. Like Eli's intentions like aren't the worst. Like kind of it's almost like the X-Men thing there of like these people don't deserve these powers. They could cause harm with them. And so he's kind of doing the like, well, they should be stopped before they cause harm to other people. Like it's very like Minority Report in that sense of like you probably will commit a crime, so I'm going to stop you from doing that. Um, and like his intention in that sense is good, but you know he's just a serial killer and is like that the absolute worst because that's like what he really is versus how he views himself or justifies himself. Maybe that's another way to say that.
It kind of makes me think of a combination of or a comparison of Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and The Boys, almost. Like the destruction caused by good intentions
Mm-hmm.
versus slash compared to how power and fame and fortune can go to your head and really you screw up the system to your benefit to put it in very mild language. In terms of the boys, as I'm thinking of. And just how it's much more of a realistic view of how people would actually behave if they were handed supernatural powers, if you will. Like, we'd like to think that we would, you know, run around New York City saving people, but like, and we might, but are we going to be conscious about how, grappling to the sides of buildings may cause more damage that can then injure more people? Or
if we web people to the side of a 30-story building and they only have an hour before the webs go away, are we the menace?
Are the police going to get there in time to make sure they don't fall to their death? Maybe not. But just how we may or may not actually think about the consequences of our actions in a scenario that would have previously been fictional to us.
Yeah. I think also the last part of the quote saying, plenty of humans were monstrous and plenty of monsters knew how to play at being human. So, like, this theme goes beyond the superpowered people as well. Like, we have Mitch, we have the police officer guy, forget his name, but
Steel?
yes.
That sounds right.
We'll go with yes. But yeah, just that like everyone in society basically has the capacity to also hurt people or not hurt people. Um, yeah, like Mitch, for example, like the people in the book see him and they're like, "Oh, he looks dangerous. He must be a criminal. He's a monster." And he's not. He's such a gem. Um,
I've been watching way too much Critical Role. I'm sorry. No, I'm just picturing Mitch going, "I'm a monster!" in a cute little Pike voice. Okay, continue on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Just that, yes, there is the capacity to be monstrous and the capacity to be a good human in all humans. And it doesn't take superpowers to bring that out of a person. All right. I have another quote. "Well, when you wonder something," said Eli, "doesn't that mean part of you wants to believe in it? I think we want to prove things in life more than we want to disprove them. We want to believe." I think we see belief and faith as kind of major themes throughout the novel as well. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I will say, as a trope, I'm super tired of the like, I'm a religious zealot and I'm going to go kill people, like that kind of trope. And even though I don't feel like Eli is necessarily like, by any means, the worst version of that trope, it just feels like such a boring motivation. And I do like that through this we get to see Eli, or kind of see Victor call Eli out on that. But like as like if that was all that they would have let Eli be, that would have not been great, IMO. But I do like that we get more than that. And then for this quote in specific, this feels to me like, again, I feel like Schwab wrote College Boys so well. Like this is so like college boy up at night philosophy that like sounds so interesting. Then you're like, wait a second, that's not how this works.
You're talking a lot, but you're saying very little.
Yeah. And I love how she wrote that, and how like even through Eli's zealousness, for lack of a better word, it's not founded on anything. It's almost just like him trying to convince himself of how he feels and using it as an excuse. And I like that that isn't hidden from us as an audience.
Yeah. And you even see like, I mean, you see Victor's conflict with that kind of thing sort of through the connection to his parents, who, as we haven't really mentioned, are self-help book writers. And he has this tendency to go and take their books, their very popular books, off the shelves and deface them with Sharpie. And you even see some of that to an extent in sort of how he approaches that and what he does, because obviously, like, self-help books are like, really, you just gotta believe in yourself, and like, here's how you then deal with this thing you're struggling with. And Victor's just like, nah, bro, I'm gonna deface it with Sharpies. And it's just his way of showing that he doesn't believe in the system that he was raised in, if you will, by these famous self-help book writing authors, and how his upbringing sort of led him to stray away from something that many people would see as positive, just because his personal experience with that and with his parents was terrible and not good.
So, I mean, I agree with you, Cameron, that the trope of like zealous religious person is not great, but I think that Eli is done well here, and that he's very much not meant to be like an accurate representation of like a religious person. Like he's very much delusional, and we very much know it the whole time. And yeah, I think in terms of belief and faith throughout the whole thing, I think like Victor has no faith, basically. But I think the way that he like talks and thinks about faith and God, he's like closer to real faith than Eli is.
Definitely agree.
Um, yeah.
And I think part of that, like one of the ways that that shows up, is like this conflict of like Eli's belief is entirely in his power. It is, I am functionally immortal within the scope of the novel, at least. And so my belief, or his belief, is fully in himself. But yeah, Shaneen, 100% to your point, it's in that guise of zealousness. That was a good way of saying it. And I like that on the other end, we have Victor, who all in all doesn't put that much faith in his power, because he knows in the situation that he's in against Eli, it can't be the crutch. And so we kind of get that dichotomy of, and honestly, I hadn't thought about this until you were talking, Shaneen. But you kind of get that idea of like faith versus works. That like Eli is all in that faith camp because his power is going to keep him safe. Whereas Victor, and almost that like more real faith, is out here trying to do something so that he can make what he believes a reality. And I thought, yeah, that just like hit me as you were talking. And I was like, oh, yeah. Again, another good dichotomy between the two of them.
Good. All right. I'm switching the order of the questions.
How dare you?
Did you notice any other themes?
This is low-hanging fruit. But there is the very traditional found family theme. And this goes to what Emma was saying earlier about Victor's relationship with his parents. He doesn't feel like his parents are his parents, in the sense like they don't parent him, like he's not close to them. Same with Sydney and Serena. Like their parents are also just as distant. And then there is that theme of these very weird people finding their family in each other. And that is another one of those like tried and true tropes that, man, I love every time. Like, give me a good found family, I'm all in. Like,
Yeah.
Again, not the most like out there theme, but I'm a sucker for it.
It's a good one to have every time. I think one for me is that stood out because I've seen it in friends in their relationships, but manipulative relationships can appear perfect on the outside.
Mhm.
So just because it doesn't look manipulative to you doesn't mean that it isn't. And that is seen a lot in the relationship with Eli and Serena, going honestly both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Eli to other, people. With his girlfriend at the beginning, we don't know if it was or not, but like, just because the entire police task force thinks that Eli and Serena are on their side doesn't mean that they actually are. Just because the relationship looks perfect on the outside doesn't mean that it's perfect. And like, you shouldn't compare yourself to something that only looks perfect, because you're just going to get hurt in the long run if you do that. But it's good to have like goals for yourself. Like, I want a relationship that has good communication. Great. But manipulative relationships are not good, and they don't always show themselves to other people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you think of the ending?
So, as I said at the top, the ending is my favorite part. I love the puzzle of the ending of how do you beat someone who's functionally immortal? And the answer is you don't.
You
And
become arrested instead.
yeah. So I really liked that twist that like, and we even get like the superhero or superpower fight at the end. But like, I love that the solution isn't that Victor needs to beat Eli. And I liked a lot that the way that I interpreted it is that, so like throughout the book, Victor is trying to parse out what Serena's powers are, and kind of gets to the realization that like, well, if his power has a limit, hopefully hers does as well. and he takes the gamble at the end that the power is that if she is dead, her power will stop working. To the point where if he is wrong, there's no recovery. Like there is no coming back from that at that point.
Boy,
but
what a gamble it was.
yeah, and like even the stuff with Mitch, of like Mitch having the unloaded gun, like anticipating that Serena would tell him to shoot himself, but then he can't because the clip is empty. Like the gamble there of she can just tell you to do something else. If it isn't this specific thing, like you're in trouble. And I loved that, like that planning and that way of building around it. And again, trying to like how do you puzzle your way out of this situation? Looking at everybody's superpowers and looking at what everyone can do. Like, how do you actually get this to work? And I thought that was such a cool way of wrapping up the story. And then, as y'all alluded to at the beginning, with the graveyard, and then it ends with, well, how do we get out of this? We die. Then we have Sydney bring us back, and we just hope that works out. Like,
yeah. I mean, by doing that though, you have essentially given the police the proof that Eli is a bad guy.
Yep.
So now he gets to go spend a bunch of time in jail. Yay!
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I thought the ending was great, and it felt proper. And because there's this question that's asked throughout the book of like, who's gonna kill who first? Is Eli gonna kill Victor, or is Victor gonna kill Eli first? Technically, Eli accomplishes that task. Technically speaking, he accomplishes that, and he wins at that game. But by winning at that game, he loses the bigger game that Victor so smartly sort of planned for or thought of by taking a gamble. And it just fit both characters in terms of like self-righteousness and like the found family versus independence, and just that whole comparison between the two of, and even with Sydney of like, I just need you to accomplish this one task of defeating Eli. After that, you can do whatever you want. Like, she then goes back and voluntarily brings Victor back to life. Like, she didn't have to do that, but she did because of that kind of Joel and Ellie relationship that they had built over the course of the book. I was like, yeah, okay, that fits who they both are as characters.
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything to add. I agree with you all. It was great. And like, I don't know, what a way to end a novel. Like, he's brought back to life, and then now what?
Yeah.
Who
Now
knows?
we got a sequel.
Now what indeed?
All right. Is there anything else that stood out to you, or any quotes that you would like to share?
There was one I found, and now I'm struggling to get back to it, but it kind of ties into the theme of what we were discussing earlier about Eli's faith. And it's along the lines of Eli saying that he put his faith in God and God brought him back to life. And then Victor says, no, you put your faith in me. And again, just like going back to the things that we have said about Eli, I just love that even then we get this challenge of what Eli actually believes, and he just is unable to see it. Like he's unable to see that he needs Victor because he gets so caught up in, oh, I'm functionally immortal. Like I can do whatever I want. And yeah, I just love that challenge right off the bat for that dynamic. And again, I don't have the exact quote, but yeah, I think that is a super cool quote.
I don't think I have anything else to add. Just, it's a good book, and I would recommend it.
All right. Will you read more by V.E. Schwab?
Yes, I would like to read the second book at some point. Because I have it, technically.
Same for me. As I said at our end of year stuff, one of my goals is to read more outside of book club. And so I think I will need to read the second one as part of this. So we'll check in end of year and see if I have done that. But that one's at least read the sequel.
For me, I will and already have read more by V.E. Schwab. I am partway through my 4th book by her. So I've read the sequel to this. Also very good. And I've started her Shades of Magic series. So I'm partway through the second one of that currently. I read the first book, which is about 400 pages in under 48 hours. So, yes, the theme of just reading her books in big chunks at a time holds up.
It holds, yeah, because keep it up.
Good to know.
Yep. So if you're looking for less superheroes and more fantasy, I recommend Shades of Magic.
Shades of Magic. Good to know.
All right. Any final thoughts on Vicious?
Go read it. Fantastic book.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. Like I said at the top, it was my #1 read of 2022. One of my all-time favorite novels. So, highly recommend. All right. Cameron, would you like to tell us what you're making us read for February?
You sound so sad.
Wow.
And so we are going to be reading Children of the Nameless, which is a passion project type thing that was written by Brandon Sanderson. It's set in the world of Magic the Gathering. And I'm trying to get the cover on the screen. Perfect. And so, so this is set in the world of Magic the Gathering, and it follows a young girl on the plane of Innistrad as spooks happen. And then she comes to the man in the manor, and turns out that he has been making pacts with demons. And so the spooks continue, and there's going to be a lot of tie-in. Part of the why I wanted us to read this is that it is a fantastic piece of like magic story. Probably one of the best novels or one of the most in terms of the recent novels written for Magic. And then it also, with both of y'all kind of only tangentially being connected to the Magic fandom, I'm very interested in that sense as well, for what y'all will connect with and what kinds of questions that y'all will bring to the book when it comes time to actually like for us to talk about it. So there's kind of like that end of my curiosity as well for this as well, of like what will make sense, what'll seem really weird, like what are the things that are going to be going on there. And so and I should say also there's a link to this in our Discord, and it is free. And so
I think you just sent, did you put that in the
It's in the book club.
Yeah, it is in the book club chat. I need to pin it. Actually, let me do that while we're chatting.
Because I know you sent it in our little thing, but I wasn't sure if you sent it in the bigger one.
Yep. So definitely recommend. It's a pretty short read. It's a like 200-page ebook, and so I'm very interested to see how y'all will connect with this.
Looking forward to it.
You got me a little more excited saying there's spooks.
There are a lot of spooks. Innistrad is the plane of spooks. So
yes,
I do like spooks.
Well, I know a little bit about Strahd from the D&D Curse of Strahd that I think you've talked about, Cameron, or someone. I had a conversation with someone about it at some point.
Yeah, so there's a reskin for Curse of Strahd set on Innistrad that you can do, because there's a very famous vampires from that plane, and so it's a very easy reskin, and so they put out almost like a PDF update for if you wanted to run Curse of Strahd set in this setting.
There you go.
All right. Did you say the date that we're doing that book club?
I did not. So we are doing that on February 23rd. And so, great call out, Shaneen.
I couldn't remember if you did. I was
I don't think I did, but so we'll say it here.
She's thinking.
All right. Well, that is it for book club tonight. Thank you for joining us talking about Vicious by V.E. Schwab. We are First Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come chat with us on our Discord server or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out our merch at our Redbubble store. Watch live on our Twitch and find our videos over on YouTube. Rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find me at the Hoot and Howl on Twitter or Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES, on Instagram.
And I am not prepared with an I on all platforms.
And hi, I'm Humar Witzel.
Thanks for joining us.
Get your vaccines.
Read a book.